I'm reading from my book, The Everlasting Gospel of Jesus, that's available on Amazon in English, Spanish, and French. It's dedicated in loving memory of our pastor, Julio Cesar Aviles Aramillo, who believed in me and inspired me to write this book, and whose untimely passing before it was finished left a void so deep only Jesus could fill it. I'm reading from chapter 1, the Alabaster box of Spikenard. On Tuesday evening, Jesus was sitting at a supper in Bethany at the house of Simon the leper when a woman came into the house and broke an alabaster box of spikenard and poured all the spikenard out on his head. The disciples were outraged that this very costly sacrifice was made when it could have been sold to help feed the poor. But Jesus told them to leave the woman alone because she had done a good thing, which was the best that she could do. He told them that wherever this gospel was preached throughout the world, this thing that she did would be told as a testimony for her. When Christians say Jesus died on Friday, was buried 3 days and 3 nights, like he said, and rose again on Sunday morning, it makes us appear to be foolish. The conclusion that Jesus died on Good Friday and rose on Easter Sunday morning has been accepted as a truth all around the world for almost 2,000 years, even though it contradicts Jesus' core prophecy. Even as Jonah was in the belly of the fish 3 days and 3 nights, so shall the Son of Man be in the heart of the earth 3 days and 3 nights. Saturday is the Sabbath day, but April 15th, Abib in the Old Testament, is also a Sabbath day. April 15th is Passover, and the Bible calls it a high day. It is a high Sabbath. The Sabbath was more important than the weekly Sabbath, Saturday. It was a holy convocation. The Jews call it Yom Tov, good day, and they greet one another with these words to recognize it even to this present day. The Feast of Unleavened Bread began on April 14th, the day they killed the Passover lamb. It was a 7-day feast that started on April 21st and started on April 14th and ended on April 21st. Celebrating this feast was mandatory for all Jews, or they were no longer considered Jews. Families gathered together to eat the feast with unleavened bread, which is bread without yeast or baking powder to make it rise, somewhat like a tortilla. Jesus died at the 9th hour of the day of the preparation, about 3 p.m. The same time they were killing the Passover lamb. In accordance with the law, the Passover was eaten on the 15th day of the month Nisan, also called Abib, coinciding with the month of April. The Passover lamb was killed on Preparation Day, April 14th, and eaten on April 15th. Jesus died on Preparation Day, the day before the Passover. Whatever day of the week Jesus died, the day after he died was a Sabbath day because of Passover. Jesus was crucified on Wednesday, was buried on that day before sunset, and remained 3 days and 3 nights in the tomb, as foretold by him in Matthew 12:40, rising from the dead on the 3rd day, the first day of the week. The fixed days and dates at either end hold the whole period as in a vice, and placed the whole subject on a sure foundation. Jesus died on Wednesday and was buried that day because the Sabbath began at dusk. He was in the grave Thursday evening, Thursday morning, Friday evening, Friday morning, Saturday evening, Saturday morning, and Sunday evening. Then he rose from the grave Sunday morning according to the Scriptures. The Last Supper was held on Wednesday evening before he died on Wednesday during the day. The calendar in Bible days was very simple. It began when the children of Israel left Egypt to go to the Promised Land. God told Moses the day they left Egypt was the beginning of days to them. They had been enslaved, but now they were free. Every month was 30 days, passing from new moon to new moon. In creation, God set a precedent. The evening and the morning was the first day. Every day after that began with the evening. The day begins at dusk, not at dawn or midnight. So if it is Monday, this evening, it will be Tuesday. Tuesday night comes before Tuesday morning. When the first day began, there was no sun, but it was in the sky before it ended. Maybe that's why we call it Sunday. After the day ends and the sun goes down, you can no longer work because of the darkness. The family sits around the campfire discussing and contemplating the triumphs and disappointments of the day, planning the chores and challenges of the new day. There is no time for planning when the sun rises and the business and struggle of the morning begins. From the time Moses led the Israelites out of Egypt until 1582, April 1st started the new year. Pope Gregory changed the calendar to begin the new year on January 1st. Every month has 31 days, except April, June, September, and November having 30 days, and February having 28, and every 4 years February has 29 days. The new moon rarely falls on the first of the month on the Gregorian calendar. People who rejected the Gregorian calendar and went by the old calendar were called April Fools. What a confusing mess we cause when we reject the perfect order of God and set up our own. In the old calendar, every month had 30 days, and there were only 360 days in a year. The current calendar was implemented by Pope Gregory because the scientists of his day determined that there were 365.25 days in a year to complete the Earth's rotation of the sun. Many Christians rejected the Gregorian calendar because it goes against biblical law. The law makes Nisan, April, the first month of the year, and the Gregorian calendar moved the new year back 3 months to January. The supporters of the Gregorian calendar shame resistors by calling them April Fools. April Fool's Day is called that because April 1st is the date that had previously been New Year's Day, and the resistors, the April Fools, insisted April 1st was the beginning of the year. The Gregorian calendar was also heliocentric, dividing the days over the space of a year and giving the months different numbers of days. In contrast, the Mosaic calendar began the month on the new moon. So using the Mosaic calendar, the month began when the moon completely waned and disappeared from the sky. Thus, every month's 14th, 15th, and 16th days were a full moon. Presently, our day starts at midnight and ends at midnight, and the morning comes before the evening. But in the Bible, the evening comes before the morning, and the day begins at sundown and ends at sundown. During the creation,